Merry Christmas, friends. My name is TerryDavidMulligan. This is the Mulligan Stew Podcast. There's a story I want you to know about. In North Vancouver, which is my hometown, the district of North Vancouver Fire Department is doing something quite special, really special, heading into this Christmas season. We're going to be talking to firefighter Jared Reynolds, who's with the district of North Vancouver Fire and Rescue, and Brent Mudry, who's a retired financial investigator. His paternal grandparents came from Western Ukraine. And Brent has been involved with the Defend Ukraine Foundation, a new Ukraine aid charity, and he started late March. They have already sent 8 big aid shipments to date, including 3 partnered with Jared at the District of North Vancouver Fire Department, and that's what we're going to talk to you about. Because the deadline is the 20th, and they're shipping clothing, winter clothing, and emergency supplies to the Ukraine. The window of opportunity for collecting clothes and getting them to the fire department in North Vancouver has passed, but now we're into a fundraising situation. Any funds that come in between now and the 20th will go towards a second shipping container going with emergency supplies, things to help them survive the winter. But here's an opportunity for us in Canada. We know how cold it is here. It's cold in the Ukraine, and they're in the middle of a war that they didn't ask for. These shipping containers are going to get to the Ukraine, to the front lines, and they're going to help save lives and enable people to survive a brutal winter. So here's a conversation with Jared Reynolds, Brent Mudry, talking about how we can help between now and the 20th of December. I have 2 guests. Their message is far more important than what I'm doing, and I tried to explain off the front end. This has a window of opportunity for all of us. Jared Reynolds, who's a firefighter, District of North Vancouver Fire and Rescue. Brent Mudry, retired financial investigator. I believe, Brent, in terms of Defend Ukraine Foundation, your parental connections, Western Ukraine, your grandparents, are what involved you?
Yeah, that's correct. My grandparents on my dad's side moved out, in the turn of the century to Calgary. My grandfather and his brother worked on the railway field, and my dad moved out to Vancouver where I was born. I don't have any Ukrainian language or culture, unfortunately, but nonetheless, it's in my blood.
And Jared, how did you get involved? Where did this start for you?
Yeah, so where this started for me, I was at one of our training centers for the District of North Vancouver Fire, and we came across an old field hospital that was back in the summer, and I asked if we could send it to Ukraine. Once I was given permission, I started reaching out, trying to find contacts, and I was connected with Brent with Defend Ukraine. And once I got involved in Ukraine, I just became more and more invested, and this has just snowballed into project after project.
So what were you sending? First of all, what are you sending in, and what are you sending inside?
Okay, so yeah, this is now the 3rd project I've been a part of. Brent has done more with Defend Ukraine, but as far as our 3, the first one we did, we sent an entire field hospital. Wow. So this was more like 1950s, some hundreds of stretchers, cots, sort of like a MASH style hospital, which we sent over in the summer. And then recently in early November, I flew over to Poland, to Krakow, and was right down to the border of Ukraine with 400 pounds approximately of trauma medical gear to pass off that has then been working its way to combat medics on the front lines in Ukraine. And now this is our 3rd project, which when I came back from my trip, I really wanted to get a whole bunch of winter clothing over there. Yeah. Essentially, Russia's been targeting power stations, and a lot of people are at risk of freezing to death. So we threw this crazy idea out for this winter clothing and blanket drive, which is what we're working on right now.
On the left, Jared Reynolds, firefighter. Brent Mudry on the right, retired financial investigator. So Brent, you already sent a container?
Yeah, so I'm kind of the logistics guy. I mean, my experience coming into this was FedEx envelope like everyone else. I've never shipped anything more than a box or an envelope. Now we're dealing with full containers. This is actually our 3rd container. Jared approached me about this crazy idea really recently. And I said, I don't know, because I'm pretty maxed out. We just had another sea can, 40-foot sea container leave on Friday full of all sorts of gear, including fishing nets from BC, which are repurposed and camouflage netting to protect Camouflage, right? Anyways, so Jared, let's go for this one. So we're making it a run. So the bottom line is there's a lot of logistics in the actual packing and getting it all set. We've got a 40-foot sea container, which was imagine 3 and a bit Sprinter type vans back to back to back. And 8.5 feet high, so it's a lot of volume goes in there. We've got 20 pellets, 40 by 48 inch by 8.5 foot high. It's a huge packing ordeal. We ship it on train to Port of Montreal. Our previous sponsor, Canadian Pacific Rail or CP Rail, we're hoping they'll come on board for this project. They've been wonderful. It goes to Montreal, then it goes by sea, by container ship to Germany, to Bremerhaven. It gets cross-packed into a long truck there because they don't take any containers into Ukraine because they can't get them out because of the war. It goes into a truck, goes through 3 customs, and then we get right as far east as we can to Ukraine. From there, we've got teams of drivers that just fan out and distribute the gear everywhere where it's needed. So it's a lot of details, a lot of work, but it's really worth it.
Okay, guys, listen, we're talking to an Alberta audience and actually nationally and internationally via streaming and YouTube. But for the Alberta audience, everybody who listens to CKUA is a donor, and they've been doing it for close to 100 years. They know about donations. They know how that works. We'll give you the information in just a second. Jared, you made note you spent time at Wainwright and CFB Edmonton?
Yeah, that's correct. I spent 13 years in the Canadian Forces, mostly in the Army Reserves. 2009, I spent a year of workup training in Edmonton before going overseas to Afghanistan through 2009, 2010. Through amongst other training, I spent a bunch of time down in Wainwright. So definitely have spent the better part of a year in Alberta.
If people in Alberta are saying, well, why are you talking to me? This is the District of North Vancouver Fire, but this is a humanitarian. This goes beyond borders. It goes beyond countries. This is a human effort, and that's why we're asking them to step forward and make donations because, we can't get clothing into a container and get it done by the 20th, but we can make donations, and how do they do that? How do they support this effort?
Yeah. The other point, too, is in BC, there is a relatively small Ukrainian diaspora or community, but it's huge in the prairies in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. I mean, you can't live in Alberta without knowing Ukrainians or working with Ukrainians.
And more importantly, just as importantly, there is an entire community. If you put them all together, there's 500,000 Albertans living on Vancouver Island alone. They come and they stay, and you still see Alberta plates all over the place. So I'm talking to them as well.
Yeah, the reality from my perspective is, as the District of North Vancouver Fire Rescue and our charitable, we've spent over $10,000 of our own money as firefighters to send me to Ukraine, as well as these previous shipments. And now with our turnout of volunteers, we have a 40-foot sea can ready to go. We just need some help funding getting it there. So we have our District of North Vancouver Firefighters charity. So if you just search DNV Fire Charity, there's a PayPal link to click donate. And if you enter the word Ukraine, we'll know that it goes to this project. Our CCAN is ready to go. We could send our CCAN tomorrow or the next day if we come up with the money. But as of now, we're short on our funding.
DNV, District of North Vancouver, firecharity.ca. Right. And you also have a website, defendukrainefoundation.ca?
That's correct. So we've got a website. We're a new charity, so we don't have full CRA status. Not a problem for tax receipts because anyone donating to us, we can issue tax receipts through a national body, Ukrainian Canadian Social Services. We just receive the money and then send it to them. They issue the tax receipt. Our website, defendukrainefoundation.ca, has a donate link. We don't have the PayPal set up, but people can either send a check or for larger donations, there are wire instructions on that as well.
Okay, we'll put those on the website. Gents, normally when you do something like this, you say, let's get it to them in time for Christmas. But basically, we're not just talking about Christmas here. We're not even talking about news. We're talking about surviving this winter in the middle of a war that they didn't ask for.
It's just brutal. I mean, I'm dealing with drivers and volunteers all the time that are in Ukraine. A lot of Westerners from all around the world, many of them with military background. Yeah. The videos and voice messages that I get continually just blow you away. It's amazing. I mean, basically freezing in the dark is the best way to put it.
Okay, I'll leave you with this. I'm going to let you do the talking, and I'll shut up and listen. Just to send a message out to the people listening on CKUA throughout Alberta. That's 16, that goes all over the province. And wherever they're listening in the world, what would you like them to know?
So I'll start. I just want you to know that right now Russia has been targeting power stations in Ukraine, and many people are without power, which is their main source of heat. We have a full sea can, 40 feet long, high cab, full of clothing, blankets that we can send, and they're desperate to get. But what we need is help for the funding. So if you can make a donation, we can help save some people this winter in Ukraine.
And the other thing, too, as far as being a lean, mean fighting machine, we're both volunteers. We don't have any paid, staff doing the charity work. We keep our expenses down low. All of your money goes directly to the shipping. There's nothing in administration, and we can show you the results. We're putting stuff out on Twitter and on our websites. The feedback we get is just phenomenal. I mean, this is Project Frozen, this shipment here, the previous one at the field hospital. I've got photos from the front lines of combat medics with their faces blacked out with our North Vancouver Field Hospital equipment. It's pretty amazing.
On the left, Jared Reynolds, firefighter. Brent Mudry on the right, retired financial investigator. Good work. Welcome to the world of media.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.